Some key cabinet ministers and close associates launched a coup against Mr Gorbachev in August 1991 while he was on vacation with his family. The coup failed, but weakened his position. As Mark Ernhoff says today, quote, "The coup affected him very much, psychologically and psychosomatically. There was deep trauma," unquote. Well, Gorbachev resigned as leader of Communist Russia on December 25, 1991. The next day, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, was formally dissolved. Subsequently and presciently, Gorbachev explained the necessity for his reforms, and this resonates with where the world is today. Said Gorbachev, and I quote, "The reason was already visible. Society was suffocating in the grip of a command bureaucratic system. All attempts at partial reform, and there were many, failed one after another. The country was losing perspective. It was impossible to live like that." Well, Gorbachev was born on March 2, 1931, to a peasant family of mixed Russian and Ukrainian heritage. His maternal grandparents were Ukrainian. During Joseph Stalin's Great Purge of the 1930s, in which perceived enemies of the state were detained and sometimes killed, both of Mr Gorbachev's grandfathers were arrested and spent time in Gulag labour camps. Gorbachev would later acknowledge the experience had a profound impact on him. His policy of Glasnost offered citizens greater liberties, including allowing them to say what they wanted without fear of retribution. Not so today in Russia. He encouraged differing views and greater candour in the conduct of government affairs. Not so today. He released political prisoners and allowed publication of once classified information about the crimes of the Stalin era. Gorbachev was indeed a towering figure in the history of world politics. As Anne Simmons writes today in the Wall Street Journal, and I quote, "Mr Gorbachev reviled conflict. He didn't intervene to quell popular uprisings that eventually led to the toppling of communist regimes in the Eastern Bloc, including in Germany and in Yugoslavia. And he allowed those Soviet satellite nations to eventually gain their full sovereignty," unquote. Disturbingly, as the Wall Street Journal reports today, Gorbachev watched as many of the democratic reforms that he had ushered in eroded under the reign of President Vladimir Putin that started in 2000, including the demise of competitive elections and the clampdown on press freedoms. The warming relations Mr Gorbachev forged with the West fell into a deep freeze under Putin with the dismantling of the Gorbachev-Reagan Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, a treaty which banned the two nations' conventional ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles with ranges of 300 miles to 3,400 miles. Well, that was banned. As Carol Williams writes splendidly today, when the Soviet flag was lowered at the Kremlin at the end of 1991 and the Russian flag went up, the man who had freed the continent from totalitarianism quietly accepted his fate as a politician who had served his purpose. The eighth and final leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, has died in a Moscow hospital at the age of 91.